You're not obligated to win. You're obligated to keep trying to do the best you can every day. Marion Wright Edelman.
I am happy to join with you today.
Once you change your philosophy, you change your thought pattern.
I love America. I love everybody. Do what this white here can do more.
Yeah. Great American.
What's good, man? Welcome to the latest edition of the One Way Podcast. I'm your host, Lorenzo. The music that you'll be hearing today in the background belongs to Lupe Fiasco, Around My Way, or Freedom Ain't Free. Makes sense that I will use this song today because I've been doing my research. It's April. For those of you that know, that have listened to this podcast before, those of you that are just in the know, April is one of the most racist months in the history of the United States. A lot of racist things happen. A lot of things happen, like the Dylan Roof shooting, the Columbine things, countless other things, Confederate History Month. I'll go on and on, but none of that stuff is really as important as what I'm about to relate to you right now. The other day was the 50th anniversary of Dr. King's assassination. And, you know, obviously you're going to see all these people come out with these Dr. King quotes, and they're going to be real supportive of him and all that good stuff. Basically, what people do in America is when the guy is protesting and doing something that is going against the grain right now in the moment, or right then in the moment, he's looked at as a villain, and then years later we'll try to paint him as this historic or heroic figure. But I was going through the newspaper film at the library, the Chautauqua Library, as a matter of fact. I found some of the news clippings and some interesting statements that were written about Dr. King. Now, oddly enough, I went into it because I wanted to see, after Dr. King's assassination, how the community that I'm from reacted to it in that time. So I went back to it to see, because you need the receipts. A lot of people say, well, I supported this, I supported that, but they don't have any receipts. So I wanted to see some receipts, and I looked at the newspaper, and obviously he was assassinated on April 4th. The newspaper came out on April 4th. That's a Thursday, so of course there was no mention of Dr. King in that newspaper. So I go into April 11th, and you know what? Not much, but when it did mention him on April 16th, it was via not a letter to the editor, but an editorial. And I'm going to read some quotes that I found interesting from this, so you know exactly the kind of people that we're out here dealing with for real, so you don't get wrapped up into this cookie cutter we are one approach that people try to pass off, man. That's one reason why I always try to keep people at a distance and always, make sure I maintain that I don't give others the benefit of the doubt. Because nothing they have done makes me think that they would give me the benefit of the doubt. You know what I'm saying? To each his own. You don't have to be like me. But the writer of the article that I'm about to read from, his name is Thurman Sensing. As a matter of fact, let me go back. April 11th, 1968 was the first time that Dr. King's assassination was mentioned in the newspaper, but it was mentioned in passing. And it was basically because there's an article written that's entitled "Curfew Adopted by City for Use in Emergencies." And if you think about it, okay, there were a lot of protests and marches after Dr. King was assassinated. So what this is that whole, you see it in Ferguson, you see it in Baltimore, when a city will invoke a curfew for residents to be off the street or face jail time if they're on the street after a specified time. That right there was the first mention of the assassination in the newspaper a week later. No mentioning of the actual assassination though. But Thurman Sensing is a guy. He has a section in the newspaper, or had a section in the newspaper called Sensing the News. The title of his article was Outbreaks of Savagery. Outbreaks of savagery, bro. Savagery. He referred to Dr. King as a protest leader in this article, man. Here's the first thing that stood out to me in the article. The protest leader, who espoused what he called a philosophy of nonviolence, has left behind a heritage of violence among his followers and admirers. These are the words written 2 weeks after Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated. This is a narrative. Don't get it twisted. This is how people really felt. What they're talking about right now on TV and all that good stuff, people that were around during this time were singing a totally different tune when this stuff first happened. Here's another one. The murder of Dr. King was a dreadful deed, but the death of one Negro soldier in the ranks of the U.S. Army in Vietnam fighting the enemies of his country deserves flags flown at half-mast 1,000 times more than Dr. King ever did. Yo, for real. For real. This was actually written. I'll read that again. The murder of Dr. King was a dreadful deed, but the death of one Negro soldier in the ranks of the United States Army in Vietnam fighting the enemies of his country deserves flags flown at half-mast 1,000 times more than Dr. King ever did, man. Don't get it twisted when they act like they was all for Dr. King. These people hated Dr. King, and this writing is showing you how they hated this man. They would put a death of a soldier fighting in a war that people are protesting, because don't get it twisted. In this very same newspaper, there are several articles, editorials, and letters to the editor talking about communism and Vietnam and student protests all alike. But after Dr. King was assassinated, this is what they're talking about. To be sure, the roots of the violence lie much deeper than the death of Dr. King. They lie in the civil disobedience that he and others encouraged for more than a decade. The people of the U.S. are paying a bitter price for the lawlessness that has been advocated and excused over so many years. The bitter fruits of demagoguery by civil rights advocates can be seen in the burned homes and stores of America's cities. Bro, this is how they actually felt. This was written. I'm pretty sure wherever you are, if you go to your library and you find the articles that were written after Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated, you'll see some things just like this, man. That's what I'm talking about. 50 years ago really isn't that long. So if you had a baby 50 years ago, 9 times out of 10, you might instill in that baby the same things that were instilled in you, and that baby has a baby, and that baby has a baby, and we're back to square one. It is imperative that a single crime, no matter how shocking or barbarous, not be overblown, or that public statements about the victim not become a vehicle of incendiary emotionalism. Now let me read that again, because I was definitely tongue-tied on that one right there. But it is imperative that a single crime, no matter how shocking or barbarous, not be overblown, or that the public statements about the victim become a vehicle for incendiary emotionalism. Unfortunately, this sensible approach was not followed in recent days. Now, you think about what's going on these days when someone is murdered by a police officer or something like that. And you see how people rise up, and then you see those people that are quick to go in there talking about forgiveness and how we should be peaceful and all that good stuff. You're expected to be peaceful. You have always been expected to be peaceful. No matter what happens to you, you can be murdered, you can be shot, you can be maimed, you can be beaten, you can be stomped, you can be bit by a dog, you can be sprayed with a water hose. But at the end of the day, they expect you to not act on that emotionalism. They expect you to be sensible, even though they were not sensible to you. I just wanted to share that information because that was definitely, it definitely made my day, bro. It definitely made my day. So, other historical events, I'm definitely going to be going back to that film room and figuring out what my community once had to say about certain things. But, you know, reading that stuff, it lets me know one thing, that the fear that a lot of Negroes around here have, even today, it's real. It is real. And it cannot be ignored. Because if we ignore it, we stand to repeat it, man. I know we want it to be one way, but obviously, as Marlo would say,
what is the other way?
and we out, man. Peace.